On the back of my truck camper tailgate, I've got a box. It's covered up by a tarp, and underneath that tarp is enough power to honestly power an entire house. But it's going to go on the back of my truck. In the past, I've ran 2 power stations for my truck bed. One, because having just a single one usually isn't enough outlets to power all the gear that I need, which includes like the fridge, the lights, sometimes in the winter, the diesel heater, camera gear charging, and other miscellaneous electronics. And usually the problem is I only have like one cigarette lighter port. So the company reached out to me, and I was like, this thing is going to be a powerhouse in the back of this truck, and I'll give it a shot. I will absolutely check it out and see what it has to offer. So without further ado, folks, we've got the ABOC portable power station. This is a 3,840 watt-hour power station, capable of 3,600 watts. And as you can tell in the photo, this is the actual unit, but it can be daisy-chained with an extra battery system, so it basically doubles the amount of power that you have running through this device. And in this one, I should have just the actual unit, which very excited for. One, because it has what appears to be 2 cigarette ports, which is super crucial because I usually like to run as much off DC versus AC as possible. And I usually had to run 2 different power banks because usually power banks only have 1 port, but this one appears to have 2. Now, this power station appears to be absolutely massive in size. And it's quite heavy, to be honest. But, oh my gosh. Here we go. Yeah, absolutely freaking massive. So I'm gonna unbox it down here, make easier access of actually pulling this thing out. Now, they list on the side of the box all the features, and we're gonna go over those. However, I'm freaking excited. I wanna see what this thing actually looks like, especially with the weight of this box. I'm very curious on the actual size of it, because like I was saying, I think these can be honestly used for like powering an entire house during like power outages and that sort of thing. So we've got a lot of protective foam and a couple different cables here. Looks to be basically like your typical solar panel. Make sure I'm not overexposed on this. Okay, exposure's been fixed. The sun keeps going behind the clouds, so it's always a whole thing. Anyways, we have a cable to charge the unit off of your just, wall outlet in your house. We've got this cable, which is appearing to be a solar cable, which runs from your typical, I think these are TX60 or XT60, I don't remember, your solar panel wiring, which on this end would, I imagine, run into the power station, which is nice because I have 250 watts up on the top of this truck. And if I can charge it, basically the 250 watts has been excess for how much power I had in my old power stations. And so this one being a larger power bank, I just feel like it's going to kind of match the power levels of the actual solar panels better. If you get what I'm saying, like these solar panels are pulling in sun constantly, and it'll top off most of my power banks really quickly, which isn't a bad thing, but then the solar panel is just sitting on top of the roof doing nothing. So having a bigger, basically what I'm getting at is, for my level of intake on the solar panels, I can afford to have a bigger battery, which this is. And we've got user manual, more protective foam. Oh my gosh, what a unit. Okay. What a freaking unit. Okay, so we have, oh my gosh, this is heavy. A couple grab handles, which I'm going to make use of and work on my squats. Been going to the gym. Oh, jeez Louise. Get off there. And I'll set this boy down. Holy crap, this thing is almost the size of my fridge. Now, here is the front face of the entire unit, and it is in fact it's a unit. I mean, yeah, side by side by my fridge. It is probably about, I mean, it's taller than the fridge. I would guess it's probably 1.5 feet tall by close to 2 feet in length, and then maybe like 10 inches in width. So starting from the top, we've got a grab handle. We've got our power button, press and hold, much like all other power stations. Gives you a little kind of like a beep to let you know it turned on. It's currently at 27%, and that's actually really cool. It shows you how many days left you have, or how much time left you have of power based on how much you're currently consuming. Right now, we're obviously not consuming anything, so just powering on the screen gives us 9 days of power. Then we have our USB section here with 2 USB ports as well as 4 USB-C ports. And then this little knob here is actually, if you plug in your power bank to your home outlet to charge it, you can actually, it's a variable, so you can choose how much power from 300 watts all the way up to, I believe, 1500 watts in power to recharge the unit. And I want to say you can recharge it in about 2 hours. I would imagine that's probably using the most power from your house outlet, but nonetheless, that's really quick for the size of this thing. Next, we move down to our DC ports. I was actually incorrect. I thought that behind each of these was going to be a cigarette port. I was mistaken. So underneath here, we do have a cigarette port, 12 volt, 10 amp, and then nice quality covers on them. We've got 2 smaller DC ports, 12 volt, 3 amp, and also 12 volt, 3 amp. And then you've got on this side, actually a female XT60 port. So, I'm not sure if I could maybe like charge one of my other power banks off of this power bank if that situation even arose. But pretty cool. I haven't had a power bank that actually had that port on it yet, so nice to have. But I was actually thinking when I first saw the box that they were both going to be cigarette ports, which was nice because then I could run my fridge off one, and my lights for my camper actually use a cigarette port DC port. So that would have been nice to have functionality on both of those, but nonetheless, still usable. And then moving down to the bottom here, we have our AC outputs, which click that open. You've got 4 different AC ports, and then you've also got I could like plug in a freaking dryer into this thing. This is literally like, I want to say either a dryer or like a stove or maybe a fridge port. So like I was saying, this unit is really designed to honestly be able to power an entire house. So if you, had I don't know, something happened where you were out of power for, a day or even days, you could hook this up to solar and literally be powering your house, at least not all of it, but at least some appliances and lights. And if you wanted to do your laundry, it seems like you could actually do that with that port that is down here. Very, very sturdy. And then another cool thing is this entire unit is on wheels and can move around like so. And you've actually got a grab handle, much like a suitcase. And so then you can roll it in and out, which is actually pretty dang nice because it's pretty heavy. I'm not gonna lie, this thing probably weighs between like 80 and 100 pounds. So having the wheels as well as the grab handle to be able to roll this thing around is quite nice. I think, I'm gonna go camping with this thing and see if it's really the right tool for this job. I mean, certainly will work for my house, but is it overkill for the truck camper? I'm gonna have to put that to the test and figure it out. But basically what I'm getting at is I may not need to it may just live in here most of the time, which is nice because being that heavy, I won't have to take it in and out. Now, funny thing is the truck, my pickup truck, you probably can't tell much on camera, but after doing my lift kit on the first gen Tacoma, I'm running like Bilstein's coilover shocks, not coilovers, but coilover shocks up front. And then in the rear, I'm running Chevy 63 leaf springs. And basically the back of the truck sits a bit higher than the front, and I've already raised the front up as far as I'm comfortable taking it without adding like puck spacers. And so basically adding a giant 100-pound battery to the back will probably actually squat the rear end of the truck more and honestly give it some much needed weight right over that rear axle, which will honestly help with like traction in the back, which sounds crazy from a power bank, but just something I'm thinking of, you know, moving that thing around in the back of the truck bed. It's super heavy, and having that thing right over the rear axle is going to, one, squat it down and make the truck ride probably more level, but also add some more weight over that rear axle to improve traction. So kind of like probably a benefit that no one ever saw happening, but immediately when I put that up on my truck bed, I'm like, oh, it's going to level it out for sure. Now, moving this thing around, easier said than done. Take a look at the backside here. So we do have a, well, let me turn it on. Honestly, it's super bright outside, so you probably won't even be able to tell, but we do have a light on the back, and we have our different like charging ports hidden behind a plastic flap as well. So you've got your AC port, your XT90 port, and it looks like basically a fuse reset button. So it has internal protection on when it's charging, and I think output as well. Or if it gets like overloaded on either end, it'll actually like almost flip like a house breaker, and then you'd come back here and hit the button to reset that. So pretty nice, all that back in there. And then on either side here, you can actually attach an extra battery from ABOC. They make basically external batteries that you can attach to this thing to double and then even triple your battery capacity. And so you've got basically ports on either of those sides to add that. And then I think this is like a bump stop. So I guess what you could do is actually, I imagine that's what that's for, is to be able to mount it this way, which honestly, for a truck bed, that may not be such a bad move, because it really, I don't have a lot of like floor space, but I have more vertical space that wouldn't get used. So pretty cool. I could actually mount this way and have maybe even easier access to my ports. Let me actually put this back there and I'll show you what I mean. Here's kind of what I'm talking about. So if I were to mount it this way, it's actually no bigger than most of my other power stations, but it just takes up more space vertically. But what's cool about this is I can actually come over here and with much easier access, get to all my ports and everything, versus if I had it, you know, tilted down maybe this way, then I'd have to like reach around or even crawl up into the truck bed to get to it. So pretty nice that they make it basically capable of sitting upright, or whatever the opposite of upright would be, side by side. No, that's not right. Now, one thing I'm not going to be able to show you in this video is actually charging it via my solar panel up top. So this thing, being a bigger unit, actually uses an XT90 port to charge via solar. And my current solar panel is wired up as an XT60, which is kind of the same style port, but just a little bit smaller. So I'm going to have to order an adapter to go from XT60 to XT90, and then I should be able to actually run my solar panel, basically, or charge this thing off of my solar panel with just an easy little adapter. And if I ever need to go back to XT60, instead of basically like cutting it off and adding an XT90, I'm just going to get an adapter, so that way I can charge this thing, or in the future use other devices that would charge off of an XT60. And then, you know, multi-use. Now this would be the other orientation I could put it in, obviously tipped down. However, it leaves a bunch of empty space right here, which just, I mean, I guess I could use it for something, but I like to have this stuff like pushed all the way up against the wall, so that way I'm not wasting any space. Like now, the only thing I could use this for back here is like gear storage. And so therefore, I could either run it this way, I could turn the whole thing this way, but then I can't get access to all these ports unless I jump into the truck bed. And half the reason I have this GFC with these side panels is because I want to be able to access things without having to jump into the actual truck. And so tipping this thing upright honestly might be the way to go. So that way, obviously inside the truck bed, I can get access to all the ports, but then from the outside, I can walk up to it and still be able to quickly and easily unplug things, plug things in, charge my phone, that sort of thing. Now, I am going to have to get a adapter. This is the cable that runs off of my solar panel. It's an XT60. So I'm gonna have to get an adapter that goes XT60 to XT90. So that way I can plug this thing in and actually charge it off of the 250 watts of solar on the roof. And that will be super nice. And then one thing, I would say my biggest gripe, and maybe not gripe, but recommendation to power station companies is it would be super nice to have more than one cigarette port, like this style of DC port on these power stations. I actually thought this one was going to have two. Turns out it was a XT60 port, but I've only ever seen them come with one. And it would be super nice because like my fridge runs better off of that port. My lighting in the GFC runs off of that port. My cell boosting antenna runs off of that port. And it would just be super nice to have multiple options. The diesel heater that I have runs off that port, but so I had to basically like splice together a whole different cable with a DC to AC adapter, so that way I can run it into your AC ports. And but anyways, that would be I love these power stations. I think they're super awesome for what I like to do truck camping wise, which is run, you know, it's a nice setup. Like I have lights, I have a fridge, freezer, I have a way to charge on my camera gear. I can edit on my laptop and not worry about power. So definitely like not your traditional camping, but something that I like to have. It makes camping very, very, very nice. But one thing that would just be great is if they could add more of those ports. So we'll see. I may next break out some gear and start testing this thing. Right now, what is it at? It's at 27%, and I'm curious to run some appliances off of it and see, you know, how much. Maybe I'll cook a meal off of it. That might be the cool thing to do. Instead of cooking a whole dinner, because I think we're going to go out to eat tonight, I'm going to make some coffee. Because you can't, you know, never a bad time for coffee. And my kettle is electric, so I feel like that would be a good, you know, at least make sure the thing works and that everything works properly. So I'm just going to fill up some water in here and get this guy all situated. And then get our plug inserted. Then we'll plug it into the ABOC power station. Now this is exactly what I'm talking about with having access to all my ports, you know, from outside the truck without having to come crawl in there. So we'll let's see, plug that guy in there, and we'll make sure the ABOC power station is actually on. There we are. And then I'm gonna hit the AC button, which should then turn on all of our power, indicated by the little light, which means we should now be able to turn on our stove and start getting that water boiling for the coffee. And it does show me a live output, so currently pulling 496 watts from the stove, and showing that we'd have, if we ran this continuously, which is actually pretty crazy because that's a lot of wattage, at 27%, this thing will still run for another 2 hours with a constant, basically 500 watts being pulled. That's honestly mind-boggling. I wish I had this for the Colorado trip, because that would have been a really good test of, you know, how with only one power station instead of juggling between two, having one larger power bank. It would have been really cool to see, because I was collecting solar that whole time, you know, how if and how it would have stayed topped off power wise, and then how much drain would have actually come of it from using it one single power station for everything in the truck camper. So I'm very excited to I'll take this thing out to Jay, Oklahoma in a couple weeks. If you guys missed the last video, I'm going to be over at Overland of America out in Jay, Oklahoma on September 12th to the 14th, and basically got a big old road trip to get out there and back, and I'm going to be very excited to test this thing out further. I did already order my adapter to get my solar panel connected up to this, so that should be here in a couple days, and very, very excited. Also, pulling 500 watts, this thing is completely silent. I've had some power stations in the past that, especially when pulling larger amounts of power, tend to, the fans kick on, it just gets really loud, and this thing, it's not cold outside, it's probably about 90 degrees, and this thing is just silent. So very nice. And wow, what a unit. So stoked on this. Now for today's coffee, going in the coffee grinder is going to be none other than some Mad Priest Mocha Java. It's I'm not gonna lie, it's not my favorite blend of theirs that I've had. I'm not I like my coffee just like, I don't like huge flavor notes from coffee, and this is cherry dark chocolate. So, you know, I like my coffee just a little bit more bland, if that makes sense, or just tasting more like coffee only. And come on. Oh, I just screwed myself. Dang it. But while the ABOC Powerstation is running the kettle, getting the water boiling, go ahead and grind up the bees. And yeah, speaking of the Overland of America event, there will be tickets available, or they're currently available. And if you use my coupon code or discount code Connor, CONNOR 10, the number 10, so Connor 10 10, it saves yourself 10% on your ticket sales for the event. I think also on like cabin rentals and camping. Don't quote me, but pretty sweet. Very excited for the event. Very excited to take that Powerstation out there and see how it performs on a longer trip. That's, you know, more than just overnight. But if you guys are going to be there, let me know down in the comments. Would love to link up with you and show you around the build, and hopefully check out some of your builds as well. I have to say, this thing looks absolutely awesome in the truck. I love that everything's just kind of got that like modern look to it, between the stainless steel fridge and then the ABOC Powerstation. Just looks really cool. I'm not gonna lie. The whole setup is really nice, and I'm wondering if, you know, other suggestion for, you know, this type of Powerstation. I guess I could probably do it through the grab handles up top, but having like tie down points would be nice. That way, you know, if you're running this in a vehicle, a truck, a van, that sort of thing, it'd be nice to be able to tie it down. That way, when you're driving, it keeps it from moving around or getting jostled in any fashion. So another tip for, you know, ABOC or Powerstation companies, be cool to add some tie downs to this thing. Alrighty, our water is just about hot enough, and I'll go ahead and shut that down, and we'll unplug this. And by the way, this thing, after pulling 500 watts for that whole time, is still at 25%. So pretty freaking awesome. And I do like this like close panel. So if you're not using any of these outlets, it's kind of nice that you don't risk getting dust and stuff in there. Like when I went off-roading in Colorado, this whole bed was super dusty. So it's kind of nice that they have those ports at least covered up. And then we can shut off the AC output. And there you have it. There's also an app that goes along with this thing. So that way you can check, you know, your power usage and power input from your phone, which is super cool. So very impressed, ABOC, and I'll leave a link down in the description if you guys want to check this out. They have a bunch of different like bundles, from just this unit, the extra batteries, this unit plus solar panels. So very impressed. Link down in the description if you want to scoop one up for yourself. Go ahead and get our coffee grounds all up in there, and get the top on, and we'll let that marinate for a few minutes. And there you have it, a fresh cup of coffee powered by the ABOC 3600 watt Powerstation. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this freaking powerhouse, no pun intended. It is a beast of a unit, and I think you definitely wouldn't need much more than this for, or even this much power for a truck camper like this. You could honestly, like I said before, you could run a whole washing machine and probably a refrigerator, like household size refrigerator, with this unit. So super overkill, but never a bad thing to have too much power, especially when I have a ton of solar that is now going to be able to be used more often because there's just a bigger power bank to power up. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'll tell you what I think of this coffee. It's blistering hot. It's blistering hot outside. So thank you to ABOC for sending this out. I can't wait to go camping with it. And like I said, check it out on a longer road trip. So look forward to that. Oklahoma should be cool. We'll put this thing to the test, and keep elevating, my friends. Thank you for being here. Love you. Adios.